Mr. Jānis. Thank you for the interview for the Geopost. It's a wonderful organization for NATO Strategic CoE dialogue in Riga. And can you tell a little bit more about this organization today?
We are one of the NATO centers that is meant to develop knowledge in a particular area, research, experiment, and our area is strategic communications. Or in other words, how to make your idea win in a conflict and war. And our focus is research, experimentation, doctrinal development, training, exercising. And for that we have 17 nations that have joined their forces to create these effects and knowledge for NATO and allies and partners. And this is one of the events where we try to kind of spread the ideas that have been created that we need to think about as a strategic communications community. Well, war is happening quite a far away, yet if you feel in a kind of in Riga and in the Baltics, the war feels much more closer because there have been parallels that people drawn in their own family history, what happens in a war when Russia attacks. So that's first thing. Second thing, we clearly see how big part of the war is information and basically being one of the central focal points of the warfare. And therefore it is a big opportunity for us as a center to study in a contemporary 21st century environment how it plays out. And there are quite many interesting takeaways that we've made from that war. Well, clearly Latvia has a specific vulnerability. We have a large Russian-speaking population. So Russia has attempted over the decades to use them as a venue of influence, but it would be a mistake to say that all Russian speakers in Latvia are pro-Putin. Not at all. And in fact, the shift has been happening in another way. They're increasingly more European than pro-Russian. But of course, there are pockets of people that are still under the spell of Russian propaganda. But what has been happening during the war, there's been increased clampdown on Russian propaganda outlets in Riga. So Russian Kremlin-sponsored TV news sites are closed in Latvia, so you cannot access them. And of course, we are hosting a large group of independent Russian journalists that are anti-Putin. So to provide a different perspective from a Russian language kind of environment to what is happening both in Russia as well as in Ukraine.
And for the end, Mr. Jānis, how is disinformation and Russian propaganda influence in media in Latvia? Do you have examples how you fight them and in another Baltic states?
Well, there's one thing about disinformation and propaganda by Russia. It likes silence and it likes shady areas. The moment you put a light on them, they lose their efficiency, and that's been the key methodology, both within a government as well as in a non-governmental sector, to find out and expose them for what they do. So there have been a number of news outlets affiliated with Sputnik, with RT, that have been trying to hide their affiliation, that has been exposed. And of course that is how their efficiency and consumption level here falls. The other thing is, of course, understanding the links between different players in the information space. And there's a lot of research and focus happening in this country as well as in the Baltics. And it's interesting that although Baltic states have a considerable vulnerabilities when you think about Russian propaganda, the Russian speakers, social stratification that is used by Russia sometimes as a means, we still are one of the most resilient nations in Europe vis-a-vis Russian propaganda. So we try to make a defect into an effect.